The Valkyrie High Council had studied humans for 17 cycles before making first contact. They had watched the small blue planet from the darkness of space. They had intercepted radio signals, decoded television broadcasts, and analyzed every piece of data they could gather. The humans were primitive, they concluded. Emotional, chaotic. They fought among themselves constantly. They polluted their own world. They had barely mastered space travel beyond their own moon. Ambassador Zelthrax stood before the assembled council members in the grand chamber of the Valkyrie mothership. His gray skin reflected the soft purple lighting as he presented his findings. The humans, he explained, would be easy to manage. They responded well to shows of force. Their governments were divided and weak. A simple demonstration of Valkyrie military superiority would bring them to the negotiating table. From there, the extraction of Earth's resources would be nothing more than paperwork. The Council agreed unanimously. They had done this hundreds of times across the galaxy. The pattern was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force. Demand submission. Watch the primitive species scramble to comply. The Valkyrie had built their empire on the predictable nature of lesser beings. 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. Each ship was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could level cities in seconds. The Valkyrie broadcast their message on every frequency, in every major human language. They demanded that Earth's leaders gather for discussions. They gave humanity 24 hours to comply. Failure to appear would result in the destruction of a major population center. The world watched in terror. News channels played the message on loop. Religious leaders called for prayer. Governments convened emergency sessions. Panic spread through every major city as people prepared for the end of their world. But something else was happening in the shadows. Something the Valkyrie had not anticipated. Deep beneath a mountain in Colorado, General Marcus Chen sat in a room that officially did not exist. Around him were military leaders from every major nation on Earth: Russia, China, the European Union, India, Brazil, and others. Old enemies sat side by side. Decades of distrust were set aside in an instant. Chen had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Not invasion by other nations, but invasion from beyond the stars. Project Prometheus had begun 40 years ago, born from a simple question. What if we are not alone? And what if those who found us were not friendly? The project had operated in complete secrecy, funded through hidden budgets and classified programs. Scientists from around the world had worked together, sharing technology and resources that their governments publicly refused to acknowledge. The result was a fleet of 200 ships hidden on the dark side of the moon. Each one was smaller than a Valkyrie warship, but they carried weapons designed specifically for this purpose. Humanity had studied every science fiction scenario imaginable. They had war-gamed thousands of possibilities. They had prepared. Ambassador Zelthrax received the human transmission with satisfaction. Earth's leaders had agreed to meet. They would arrive at the designated coordinates in 6 hours. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected. He ordered his crew to prepare the diplomatic chambers. Wine and food would be provided. The humans would be made comfortable before they signed away their planet. The Valkyrie did not notice the small craft that slipped away from Earth's surface in the hours that followed. They did not detect the encrypted communications bouncing between continents. They did not see the submarines rising from ocean depths, carrying nuclear missiles modified with propulsion systems that could reach orbit. They did not know that humanity had been waiting for them. 6 hours later, a single shuttle approached the Valkyrie flagship. Zelthrax watched it dock with mild amusement. The craft was tiny and crude. It looked like something assembled from spare parts. The ambassador straightened his ceremonial robes and walked to the receiving chamber. Behind him, 4 armed guards stood ready to remind the humans of their place. The shuttle doors opened. 3 humans stepped out. 2 were in military uniforms. their faces hard and expressionless. Between them walked a woman in a simple gray suit. Her name was Director Sarah Okonkwo, and she had spent 30 years preparing for this conversation. Zelthrax spread his arms in a gesture of welcome. His translator device hummed as he spoke. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. The Valkyrie Empire welcomes you. We trust you have come prepared to discuss the terms of your world's integration into our collective. We have much to offer your primitive species: technology, medicine, protection from the dangers of the universe. All we ask in return is access to your planet's mineral resources and the service of a portion of your population." Sarah Okonkwo stood in silence for a moment. She looked around the chamber, taking in the alien architecture, the guards with their weapons, the ambassador with his confident smile. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small device. "Actually," she said, "we came to give you a choice." Zelthrax tilted his head. This was not how the conversation usually began. Sarah pressed a button on the device. The chamber's view screens flickered to life. They showed the space around the Valkyrie fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed different. Then, one by one, lights began to appear. Small at first, then brighter. Hundreds of them. Ships emerging from the darkness where they had been hiding. Human ships. At the same moment, across the world, every nuclear missile in humanity's arsenal launched simultaneously. Not toward human cities, as they had been designed. Toward orbit. Toward the Valkyrie ships. Zelthrax watched in disbelief. The humans had no space fleet. His intelligence was certain. They had nothing that could challenge Valkyrie technology. "What is this?" he demanded. Sarah smiled. "This is humanity's counteroffer. You see, Ambassador, we received your message loud and clear. You expected us to come here and beg. You expected fear and compliance. But you made a mistake. You announced yourself. You gave us 24 hours. And you underestimated what we can accomplish when we work together." Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Valkyrie commander's voice crackled through the communication system, screaming about incoming projectiles and unknown vessels engaging the fleet. "Your ships cannot possibly match ours," Zelthrax said, but his voice wavered. "You're right," Sarah agreed. "Ship for ship, you outclass us completely. But we don't fight fair, Ambassador. We never have. Those missiles heading toward your fleet? Each one carries a nuclear warhead surrounded by a shell of refined osmium. When they detonate, they won't just explode. They'll shower your ships with radioactive shrapnel moving at 9 kilometers per second. Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons. They're not designed for this." The first detonation lit up the view screen. A Valkyrie warship, one of the smaller ones, simply ceased to exist. The osmium shell turned into a cloud of deadly fragments that tore through 2 more ships nearby. Zelthrax stumbled backward. "This is madness. You'll start a war you cannot win." Sarah shook her head. "We're not starting a war, Ambassador. We're finishing an invasion before it begins. You came here to take our planet. You expected conversations, negotiations, peaceful surrender. Instead, you're going to receive a lesson that your empire will never forget." The 2 military officers beside Sarah had not moved. Their hands rested on weapons that looked crude but deadly. One of them spoke for the first time. "In the last 3 minutes, your fleet has lost 4 ships. In approximately 2 more minutes, our main force will be in weapons range. We've targeted your engine cores. When they go, you won't be limping home. You'll be floating debris." Zelthrax tried to contact his ships, but the communications were jammed. The humans had thought of everything. They had prepared for every contingency. This was not the behavior of a primitive species. This was the calculated response of a civilization that had been waiting for this moment. "Stop," he said finally. "Please, we can negotiate." Sarah stepped forward. Her eyes were cold and hard. "Yes, we can, but not the negotiation you planned. Here are our terms. You will withdraw from this system immediately. You will broadcast a message to every species in your empire and beyond, warning them that Earth is not a target. You will provide us with all technical data on your propulsion systems as payment for the ships we've destroyed. And you will never return. And if we refuse? Sarah glanced at the view screen, where another Valkyrie ship was breaking apart under the human assault. Then we'll finish what we started. We'll capture your flagship. We'll dissect your technology. And we'll spend the next century building a fleet that can reach your homeworld. The Valkyrie studied us for 17 years, Ambassador. You should have studied harder. We don't surrender. We don't submit. We survive. Whatever it takes. The battle lasted 11 more minutes. When it was over, 8 Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. The remaining 4, including the flagship, were badly damaged. Ambassador Zelthrax signed the human terms in the same diplomatic chamber where he had expected to receive Earth's surrender. As the human shuttle departed, carrying Sarah Okonkwo and her escorts back to Earth, she allowed herself a small smile. The world would learn the truth soon. There would be celebration and fear in equal measure. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had just made powerful enemies. But they had also proven something important. The stars were not safe. The galaxy was not kind. Out there, in the darkness between worlds, predators roamed freely. They expected easy prey. They expected submission and fear. They would not find it on Earth. General Chun was waiting when Sarah's shuttle landed. The sun was setting over the Colorado mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Chun extended his hand. "Well done, Director." Sarah shook it firmly. "This isn't over. It's just beginning." "I know, but we bought ourselves time. That's all we could ask for." Above them, the stars were coming out. Somewhere among those distant lights, the damaged Valkyrie fleet was limping toward home. They carried with them a story that would spread across the galaxy. A warning about the strange species from the third planet of an unremarkable star. A species that should have been conquered easily. A species that responded to demands for conversation with detonations instead. In the years that followed, other empires would hear the story. Some would dismiss it as exaggeration. Some would send their own fleets to test humanity's resolve. They would all learn the same lesson. Earth was not prey. Earth was not weak. Earth was a world of creatures who had spent their entire existence fighting for survival against impossible odds. They had conquered their own planet's dangers. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them. The universe had finally noticed humanity, and humanity had noticed right back. The conversations could wait. The detonations had been delivered, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other species were beginning to wonder what else the humans might be capable of. They would find out soon enough.